Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be reading Reddit stories. They're called Let's Not Meet. So these, to my understanding, these are stories that basically some close encounter that they didn't want to have a close encounter, you know? It is currently 3 in the morning, so if I seem a little bit sleepy or not active, hyper slash whatever, or I sound dumb, it's because I'm sleep deprived, but I'm doing this for YouTube, you know? Y'all, the main reason that I kind of made space to this side is because I noticed that on the last one, it was like real zoomed into my face, and I know I'm beautiful, guys, but I'm sure you guys want to see the story while I'm reading it, so I am going to be putting it up right here somewhere. I can't see because I don't have my glasses. Somewhere here, guys. So the story should be up here, you know, doing its thing. You know, I'm just going to be here chilling. I know. You guys can still see me. Oh, I forgot to mention, the reason I am not showing my head today is because I decided to go bald. So I have no hair right now. Look, I'll show you guys a little bit. I don't know if this is too much.
Oh,
That's too much, right? Alright guys, let's get straight to the video. Alright guys, so it's Let's Not Meet by username unanimous 140000605. Alright guys, so it says, I was on a hit list. Okay, so backstory. I go to high school with about 500 people. This happened during my sophomore year. I'm a junior now. This might not be as extreme as other Let's Not Meet posts, but this is something that still terrifies me, even a year later. Mark had issues before this happened. He started cutting his arms in class. I was sitting 2 seats away from him and watched the blood just roll down his arm. He ended up being reported to the office and was sent to the YOC for about a month. If I'm right, the YOC is a Youth Opportunity Center. It's basically a mental hospital slash Jewish center for kids. He came back and he seemed fine. He said he was never suicidal, that he only cut his arms for attention. Which made sense for him because of his kind of messed up childhood. On the day everything happened, I had no clue about anything, but during a 6-hour class, the school resource officer appeared at the door of the classroom. One of my friends was standing behind him. The SRO told my teacher that he needed me immediately. I had no clue what was going on. I just thought I was being randomly drug tested, as it's pretty common in my school. I tried asking why we were going to the office and got no response. He took the 2 of us into the conference room, where the police officers were standing. They questioned me first. As I walked into the room, he shut and locked the door behind me. One of the police officers blocked the door, the other blocked the window. I was petrified. I had no clue what was happening. This conversation happened. Note, the SRO was confrontational and aggressive throughout this entire conversation. SRO, have you heard anything lately? About what? There were threats made against your school. Your name came up in the conversation. What do you mean my name came up in the conversation? I haven't heard anything. Who made the threats? And who said I would know anything about it? Mark made the threats. When we questioned some other people, your name popped up. They said you might know something. Who said my name? We can't tell you. I understand they probably couldn't tell me who said it due to confidentiality reasons, but it's so frustrating to be locked in a room with 3 police officers who are acting like you've done something wrong, especially when you haven't. To this day, I still have no clue who mentioned my name. I have heard nothing. The only class I have with him is 5th period, and he wasn't there today. We don't talk outside of that class, and the only reason we talk in that class is because we sit at the same tables. So we have to work together some days. Are you sure? Me. I'm positive. I don't know anything. All of this is news to me. Okay, you're free to go. They opened the door, took my friend in, and I went back to class. I was kind of in shock. As soon as I walked through my class door, everyone was bombarding me with questions about what had happened. I ignored it and put my head down for the rest of the class. Later that night, I saw on Facebook that the school had posted a message. I don't remember what it was exactly, due to it being deleted. From my recollection, it said something like this. Parents and students of school name. 2 students reported that another student had made threats against their school. We have handled the situation, and there is nothing to worry about. The actual post was longer, but I honestly don't remember it. I told my parents about everything that had happened that day, and they immediately wanted to know more information. I couldn't give it to them. At that point, I didn't know about the hit list or his arrest. All I know was that SG had threatened to shoot up the school. The next day, crap hit the fan. I found out he told people about his plans during 1st hour, and he was taken out of class and arrested during 4th hour. He was going to do it during 5th hour, start with the class he was in, which I wasn't in too, and then he would head to the cafeteria. God, I still get chills when I think of this very moment. During lunch, my best friend came up to me and told me about the hit list Mark wrote and showed her during first hour. She didn't get the chance to tell me the day before. The other guy who was there confirmed everything. I was on it. I was the third name down. Evidently, he described in detail how he would kill me. Luckily, someone stopped it from happening, or else I would be dead before I even got to graduate high school. To this day, I still don't know why he could have wanted to possibly kill me. I barely even spoke to the guy. I was polite in class if I had to work with him. We had no negative interaction, so I honestly have no clue what I did to make him desperately want me dead. As I understand it, he did have a gun in his locker. It wasn't a joke like his friends had thought. He intended to do it. I was relieved that I was alive and that nothing had happened, but I was also out of my mind with horror at the thought of someone plotting my death. About 2 weeks later, my dad and I go into a Dollar General in our town. Keep in mind, my dad has no clue what Mark looks like. We walk in to buy something for dinner, and I see Mark. He's staring at me so intensely that I wanted to run out of the store. But I stuck close to my dad and I told him to hurry. He looked at me confused, and I told him I wanted to explain it later. Mark was following us around the store. I couldn't breathe. I don't have words to describe how scared I was. My dad and I got what we needed, left the store, and got in the truck. As soon as I was in this truck and the doors were locked, my dad turned to me and asked, "Who was that?" "He looked like he wanted you dead." I replied that it was Mark. At this point, we were thoroughly panicked, not only because he was roaming free, but because he knew where I lived. We had security cameras, but knowing that person who has adamantly expressed his desire to kill you knows where you live is terrifying. The school since has acted like this never happened. In fact, one of the administrators told me and my family we were overreacting when we wanted to know if he'd been back at school because, according to them, I was never in any real danger. Luckily, the kid is no longer at my school and he is currently in some type of jail because he murdered his mother. He pushed her down the stairs and she was found dead in a body bag. Thankfully, he was caught, and I don't think he's going to get out anytime soon. Okay guys, so that one is definitely creepy. Just to think about all the shootings that have passed in the United States, it's creepy to think you go to school one day and you're thinking in the back of your head, right, like, I don't want to get shot today, right? You never know what type of crazies there is out there. And just to know that you were on a hit list is kind of crazy too, because now you're like, well, what the hell did you do? I mean, this story might have had some lies in it, like he might have bullied the kid or whatever. But that's no reason to kill a person, you know, guys. That one is definitely a let's not meet type of one. Alright guys, so this next one is about a bad taxi experience. So I don't know about you guys, but I've seen many bad Uber driver experiences where, you know, for some reason or the other, either the passenger is weird and aggressive and like scary, or the driver is, right guys? So I wouldn't want to be in that situation where, you know, I'm fearing for my life and I can't get out of the car, or there's somebody in my car that doesn't want to get out, right? This is what the story is about. It's about a girl in a taxi. So, just giving you guys a backstory, like, what I think beforehand. So, I'm going to read it to you guys, and this one's titled, Taxi Driver Adamant He Knew a Shortcut. Alright guys, so this one says, so me and my best friend were around 22 at the time. We had just been out drinking and needed to get a taxi back to my house, which was 15 to 20 minutes away. We hopped in the first taxi we saw, and off we went. It became clear to us pretty quickly that the taxi driver was the kind that liked to talk, and so we just politely responded, "Yeah, haha, oh right," the usual responses when you kind of wish somebody would just stop talking. This guy must have been in his mid-50s. He just seemed friendly enough at first. Anyways, he then started to talk about how he liked this radio host. Then it got weirder and weirder. He didn't just like her, he was verily obsessed with her. He started asking us weird questions about her as if he knew her personally, and as if we did too. We both just didn't know what to say. He started to look back at us whilst driving. His attention was not fully on the road. He then said, "I know a shortcut to your house. I'll take you down it." I remember my heart just dropping. There was no shortcut. I lived there my whole life. We both looked at each other, and I knew Sarah had the same feeling as me. I lived in a remote village in the middle of nowhere, and we were driving down a road with no streetlights and surrounded by fields. My first thought process was that we were going to die. I remember feeling a relief that I wasn't going to die alone, and that I at least was with Sarah. Then I had a mini brainwave. I pretended my phone rang and that it was my mom ringing, worried about where we were, that she was waiting for us. On the phone I said things like what street we were in and how long we would be. I just wanted to scare him. I could see him looking quite pissed off in the rearview mirror whilst he stared at me. I know you might be thinking, why didn't I just ring my mom? She wouldn't have answered. She was notorious for leaving her phone on silent. Luckily, we managed to get to my street. I just told him to stop at an old house because I didn't want him to know where I lived. As we got out, he stayed outside. I said to Sarah, let's just slowly walk to whomever's front door this is and pretend we're looking for keys in our bag, because he was still outside watching us after 5 painful long minutes. Eventually, he left, and as soon as he did, we bolted it down the street to my actual house. I've never taken a taxi since. To the creepy taxi driver in the middle of the night, no, you did not know a shortcut, and I hope we never meet again. So like I said, guys, it's just a bad experience for women, especially women. I know, guys, this happens to guys too, but just women in general. People see women and they think, oh, you know, they're vulnerable, especially if they're alone, which is pretty sad in my opinion. So you guys should just stop being pigs and let women just be women, you know, just let them be, like, don't bother them. Alright guys, this one is titled The Ice Cream Man by Maury Judith. So this one is a long one. Back in my high school years, I'd often meet with a few friends at a local Dunkin' Donuts, which was conveniently near a railroad we'd all take to our weed guy's house. My closest friend at the time, Katie, and I usually met up earlier than everyone else just to hang out, order our extra large drinks and hash browns, and attempt at some "hey mister" shenanigans to score some tall boys from anyone willing to buy us beer. I'd consider us to be pretty naive and overly nice girls, which never proved to be issue to either of us until we were nice to the wrong person. Now for a little background of my hometown, I grew up in the forgotten borough of New York City, Staten Island. For those who are unaware, there was still is a pretty horrendous opioid epidemic, so seeing zombie-like civilians strolling the streets is fairly common. Because of this, I was pretty good at spotting out some struggling with heroin and things of that sort. Anyways, on this day, Katie and I met up at the Dunkin' and sat at our usual booth. We were in the midst of messing around with our phones and being overly giggly selves when I noticed out of the corner of my eye, someone suddenly stops outside of the glass door. Still smiling, I glanced over to see if it was maybe one of our friends, and ended up making direct eye contact with a basic Staten Island looking guy. I looked away unbothered and carried on. Just another customer anyways. After the guy got his coffee, he sat directly at the table across from our booth. I chose to ignore the fact that he sat weirdly close and resisted eye contact, since that already awkwardly moment happened. But I guess the motion caught Katie's attention and she looked over her shoulder at the man settling in. She looked back at me, made a face that said, okay, and we just giggled and tried to move on. Every now and then I glanced in the direction, mainly just because I like to be observant of my surroundings, but also because I kept seeing him scratch at his nose, neck, and face in my peripheral vision, and noticed he was bleeding from various little cuts in his body. This was a dead giveaway to me that he was doing some form of opiate, as they tend to get very itchy and scratch until they break skin. A few moments later, the man asked if one of us had a charger he could borrow. I kindly denied, and Kaylee only had an iPhone charger, while the man clearly had an Android phone. This slight exchange was enough for the man to feel invited, and he'd continued to make comments for quite some time. Being that this was about 4 years ago, I don't remember the entire conversation, but I do remember him asking general questions, like if we live around here, what do we do on our free time, and that creepy sort of stuff. I was pretty vague yet polite in my responses, but Katie was always a bit more enthusiastic in her words, making it pretty easy for the guy to reciprocate and basically join our conversation altogether. In Katie's innocent stupidity, the guy basically found out some of the main train stops we get off at to hang in those areas. He also found out that we would indulge in the devil's lettuce, which only made this guy feel even more inclined. At some point, he mentioned how his ex-girlfriend got him into some trouble, got him into heroin, which he used to sell, served jail time for, and pretty recently got out. He also mentioned how he's been an ice cream truck driver ever since his release, and told us that he always drives around the same train stops that Katie mentioned earlier. He also repeatedly offered to give us rides around his truck someday, with free ice cream as a bribe. Again, so we were pretty naive and overly nice girls, Katie more than I. So one thing led to another, and eventually this guy was asking for Katie's social media, which she happily obliged to. She's always been really dedicated to expanding her follower count. Throughout this entire exchange, I was mostly just nodding, smiling, laughing here and there, so my remaining silence during the social media exchange went unnoticed. However, once the guy started following Katie on Instagram, he quickly found mine through a tagged picture of her page. I wasn't private at the time, so he immediately started liking and commenting on nearly every one of my pictures. Finally, after the longest half hour ever, I urged we really should be catching our train. Fortunately, the man wasn't persistent. After that, we were on our way with no problems. After some verbal recap of what just happened, I convinced Katie to block him, and I did the same. We brushed it off with that. I honestly forgot about the strange interaction until about a week later. I was hanging out with some friends at a park near my high school when Munchies made me crave Ralph's ice cream, which was just up the block. I ventured off with my other friend and almost made it to the store before the sound of an ice cream truck approached from behind us. Completely lost in conversation, my attention was only caught by the high-pitched screeching of the truck brakes and somewhat familiar voice. Of course, it was him. He shouted out to me, but with Ralph's only a couple feet in front of us, I ignored him and rushed in with my friend. The guy didn't stick around, being that he was blocking the whole lane on a narrow two-way lane, but we still called our friend at the park to pick us up in his car. For the next 2 weeks, there were about 4 times this man tried to pick me up in his truck, at this point making me pretty paranoid. I was potentially being stopped. The last time it happened, he was parked directly outside of the train stops, almost as if he was waiting. He called out again to me asking why I blocked him and saying he just wants to be friends. At this point, I had had enough and told him to just leave me alone. My dad's a lieutenant, which was a lie, but it slipped out in my defense. I walked away before he could respond and into the diner. I saw his truck drive away in the window and never had an interaction with that ice cream man again. The sound of an ice cream truck has haunted me ever since. Alright guys, so I'm gonna wrap this up by saying I hope you guys enjoyed these stories, I've been searching for, one of the last video I went for like scary type, but this video I went for the creepy type. Next video, I might go back to scary, go back to some dark web stuff, some paranormal stuff again. Guys, I don't know what I'll do yet, but I know what you guys can do. You guys can like this video, subscribe if you guys haven't, leave a comment down below, it never hurts, So I hope that by the end of, what day are we? By the end of the month, that I have 250 subs. So that's my goal for this month. Yeah guys, I just appreciate you guys for stopping by. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. And we will be seeing you guys on the next video. Peace.